in this case is in that article itself, Josh has a great sort of visual of the breakdowns for wide receiver ones, which he just talked about, and we'll repeat that. Wide receiver twos and wide receiver threes that rookie quarterbacks produce in terms of sustaining top wide receivers. So what were those percentages, Josh, before we go into 2020 narrative?
So before we kind of dive into that, I kind of wanted to set up a small control group just to kind of have something to compare these numbers to. So logically, obviously, there were 36 receivers in the NFL that finished as a wide receiver 3 or better, right? But that doesn't mean that 100% of the 32 teams had a top 36 wide receiver, because you have some teams that have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans that both meet that criteria, Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. So in 2019, 81% of teams had a wide receiver 3 or better. For rookies over the last 10 years, only 57% sustained a wide receiver 3 or better. So that's kind of a huge gap, and that's at the lowest level of expectation, right? If you're drafting a guy and he doesn't finish in the top 36, you are very disappointed with what you got out of it.
Yep.
And so if we kind of up our expectations a little bit more, 62.5% of teams had a wide receiver 2 or better. In the rookie world, only 31.5% had a wide receiver 2 or better. So that's about half as often, right? So that's really not great. And to get even higher up, 37.5% of teams in 2019 had a wide receiver 1, which makes sense, a little bit more than a third. For rookies, only 11% met that threshold of finishing as a wide receiver 1. So that's kind of like, it's not a good number.
Yeah, exactly. So again, when we talk about these wide receivers that we're about to get into, just know that, man, the uphill battle just got a lot fucking harder simply because they have a rookie quarterback. There's no other way to put it. These guys just don't know NFL fucking speed. I don't know how else to put it, right?
Yeah.
NFL defenses, NFL speed, chemistry, all that work that they had in college is just a lot different.
We lost you there for 1 second. Chris, repeat that after you said NFL speed. I just want to make sure we catch that.
Yeah. So basically, again, rookie quarterbacks have a really difficult time understanding the gap, pace of play, defensive schemes. Again, imagine going from, your Joe Burrow playing whoever in the SEC to now you got to face like a Bill Belichick or like a Mike Tomlin, dudes who've just been doing it at the highest level, have rings to support it. It's just like, we're this is the fucking men's league now. This isn't the boys league anymore.
Yeah, and so obviously some people are going to come at this and be like, yeah, well, Joe Burrow was the 101. Joe Burrow is something else, right? And so if you look in the article, you'll also see that I put charts up there where I kind of filtered into first round quarterbacks, right? So that's going to exclude guys like Gardner Minshew or anyone that was drafted later. And also a breakout for only quarterbacks that were drafted in the top 10 overall. And I won't get into those numbers, but you can see that it's still not very favorable for these rookie quarterbacks, even if they were at the top tier of their class. So just keep that in mind as well, especially with this year where the big 3 quarterbacks that might be playing were all taken in the top 6 overall.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, it's a good segue. Let's get right into those. So I think we haven't even talked about it, but I'm thinking here, Joe Burrow, Tua, and Justin Herbert all likely have a shot to play in 2020.
Yeah, for sure. I think we can kind of lock Joe Burrow in as the week 1 starter in Cincinnati.
Yep.
I think Justin Herbert has the next best odds to start as he's coming into the season healthy and behind Tyrod Taylor. We saw how long Taylor lasted in Cleveland as a starter. I think that was 3 games before Baker took over. Mm-hmm. And then you have Tua, who is in a very interesting position where we really don't know how Miami is going to approach this. He's coming off a major hip injury. And they have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who, while he produces the volume, can be a bit of a liability with the ball. So that's kind of an interesting situation to begin with.
Yeah. So let's take it team by team here. With Joe Burrow at the helm in Cincinnati, we'll start right at the top here. Again, I already talked about it. I'm feeling bullish about Tyler Boyd. I think, to me, he's the alpha on that team. That team tends to have good pieces around them. Outside of their offensive line, which, To me, that's going to be their biggest problem. But if Joe Burrow can pick up things fairly quickly, get minimal protection, and I think a guy like Tyler Boyd with his shiftiness and speed, I think he's going to end up producing some good upside. He's going at wide receiver 30. Are you feeling confident he's going to be a top 36 wide receiver by the end of the year?
So a couple things I'll add with Joe Burrow, right? He kind of under his rushing production at LSU was underappreciated. He can move. He can throw the ball on the run.
Sure.
If the offensive line breaks down a little bit, he's going to do a lot better moving the ball than Andy Dalton did.
Good
Or
point.
Ryan Finley for that matter, right?
That's a great point. Sure.
So that's kind of one thing that I noticed as I was going through these. A lot of these quarterbacks that did succeed, these Daniel Jones, these Deshaun Watsons,
Gardner
Gardner
Minshew.
Minshew, yeah, he
Yep.
had DJ Chark finish in the top 36. Those guys were able to kind of move out of the pocket and throw on the run a little bit.
Yeah.
So
All of
I
them are
think
very
that
underappreciated with their running games.
exactly, they're pass-first quarterbacks that can throw the ball.
Sure.
So Tyler Boyd was actually one of my favorites out of the 6 wide receivers that we're really going to talk about. I have too many concerns with AJ Green. And when
Agreed.
you add on to this quarterback as a rookie situation, he's virtually on my do not draft list, right?
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd is different, right? So a guy I like to think of when we talk about Tyler Boyd is Golden Tate,
Yep.
where you're going to have those mid-distance targets, not too short, not too long. I think Tyler Boyd does have a pretty good shot to finish as a wide receiver 3. I think if you're drafting him as your second wide receiver, it's going to hurt.
Sure.
I wouldn't recommend it. But I think of all these guys, he has the safest floor with these, well, except for maybe Keenan Allen. But of these guys that you can get relatively cheaply, he does have a pretty safe floor.
Yeah. How do you feel? I'm going to throw a little wild card in here. How do you feel about a guy like John Ross, pending he can stay healthy?
All right. So John
My
Ross.
man led the league last year for 2 games.
Yeah. So John Ross, I actually acquired a share of him in a dynasty league before last season, and I was pretty hyped for a couple weeks. But
Yeah.
I don't think he's worth drafting. If he starts lighting it up early, maybe he's worth a waiver wire pickup. He's not going to be drafted in any leagues, I don't believe.
Sure. I agree with you.
Keep an eye on him. If all of a sudden him and Joe Burrow come out here and they're in rhythm and Joe Burrow's throwing to John Ross like he's Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase down the sideline, then we're in a different story. But
yeah,
he does comp decently to Percy Harvin, I suppose, in terms of the speed. As well as Will Fuller, but Will Fuller had Deshaun Watson, and like I said, that was kind of an outlier. So,
yep,
he's kind of not worth the pick on my
for sure.
radar.
Cool, man. All right, let's move right into. Let's talk about Justin Herbert. I think he might have a couple of reasons. I think he might have a better shot to start than Tua does, and he's got 2 big name receivers. And I also want to save Devontae Parker's take last, so we'll get into that in just a second with you. Justin Herbert, LA Chargers. He's got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Keenan obviously has been a top 12 wide receiver. I believe he finished last season at wide receiver 6, although Eric fucking hates his ass, just fucking hates his guts. This year, I think he's steadily, like, he hasn't gone up or down in his ADP. I think he's like wide receiver 18.
Yeah, he's at 19 where I'm looking right now. So he's in that area. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So this is one of these scenarios where, like, he's still inside the top 24. He's being looked at as like a nice wide receiver 2 on a team. Especially if you go, running back heavy. How do you see him faring out with Justin Herbert?
So one thing I do like about Keenan Allen, right, is prior to this season, you had to pay a premium to get Keenan Allen. He was going as a top 12 wide receiver almost every single year for the past 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
Now Phillip Rivers leaves town. You got Justin Herbert and Tyrod Taylor coming in. So let's just ignore Tyrod Taylor for now because the whole point of this discussion is the rookie quarterback. Where he's at now, I don't hate the price, but you're investing in a higher risk than some of these other guys that are at 20. And you're also investing in a lower ceiling because I don't think anyone sees Justin Herbert coming out here and throwing for 4,000 yards. So I feel like his upside this year is severely capped.
Yeah, like his ceiling is capped, and his floor. I mean, we've seen it with a veteran. It can be in the basement.
Yeah, so I think his floor is I don't think he's going to fall outside of the top 36 at the end of the season. But if you're drafting him at 21, if he finishes below wide receiver 24, 25, you're going to be disappointed. I think that's a very real possibility with
Yeah,
Justin Herbert.
100%.
And the odds of him finishing as wide receiver 15 or 12 aren't high, in my opinion. I don't think that there's going to be enough volume in that offense. So he's kind of one of these people that I think is going to be severely handicapped by the Justin Herbert acquisition in 2020. If you're in a dynasty league, it might be a really nice buy window. I do think the Justin Herbert offense of the future is going to be somewhat pass heavy. He's a guy with a big arm that's going to throw it downfield, but as he acclimates to the NFL in year one, I don't think it's quite what you're looking for.
Sure. And then the other guy that you're I would say bullish on is Mike Williams.
Yeah. I generally love Mike Williams. I think he's a great talent. I think his rookie year, he was kind of he barely played because of back injury, but he's a touchdown monster. In 2019, he had 2 touchdowns, which was very out of character for him from Clemson, as well as his first full year in LA. The thing I like about Mike Williams is he's virtually going undrafted. And I would say last year he was going as probably a top 36 receiver, and everyone was looking at him as having the ceiling of like Odell Beckham all of a sudden.
I know.
He now gets hurt, right? So he's one of the ones that I'm okay taking just because his ADP is nothing. So
sure,
when you swing for the fences late, I'd much rather swing with my last pick on Mike Williams than with my 5th pick on Keenan Allen when the floor for Keenan Allen is just as low, right?
Yep.
So
like it. Awesome, bro. All right, let's move on to your last potentially your last couple of takes here. Tua in Miami. Look, I'm not going to leave you out to dry on this one. We're going to talk about Devontae Parker and Preston Williams. Anybody who's heard our sophomore wide receiver episode knows I'm very high on Preston Williams this season. And I didn't realize how, I guess, air quotes, low on Devontae Parker I was until I started doing my rookie rankings. And we were just talking about this. I couldn't fucking find a spot for this guy inside of my top 25. So he's already outside of my top 25. Between the two, let's assume here that, Tua will likely not start the season, but my guess is he gets in at some point, right? And so because of that, we can always extrapolate and say, oh, okay, if Tua was in, for X amount of time, this is how Devontae Parker and Preston Williams would have fared out. But that being said, we're already fading Devontae Parker and being bullish on Preston Williams going into the 2020 season for, these 2 Miami Dolphin wide receivers.
Yeah, for sure. So when I started out Miami Dolphins this year, I gave Fitzpatrick 8 games, and I believe they have a week 9 bye. And I think that would likely be the slot where they'd put Tua in if he's going to play in 2020. So I think you're going to get half the year of Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing the ball recklessly to wherever he wants, and his receivers should have very good fantasy value because that's what Ryan Fitzpatrick does.
Right.
That's all he does. He's going to turn the ball over, but he'll get you your yards and your touchdowns. Now, when Tua comes in, we have a lot to kind of worry about. Like I said, a lot of the times, these quarterbacks that know how to move behind the line of scrimmage are the ones that succeed. And in college, Tua Tagovailoa could do that, and he did it well. But he just broke his hip. He's coming off a pretty severe hip injury. The odds of him trying to stay in the pocket a bit more are a little bit higher. And so that's kind of why I'm a little bit worried about the second half of the season for the Dolphins. I don't know that Tua is going to go out there and support a wide receiver 2 or better in the second half of the season, but they might finish as a wide receiver 2 or better because of what they've been able to do with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, you'll notice I'm being very vague. I'm not giving a name to this wide receiver because –
just say it. We all know.
To me, it's not Devontae Parker. It is Preston Williams. If you check my Twitter today, it's Josh_FF, and today is July 7th. I have been fighting off the hordes, defending Preston Williams for 2020 over Devontae Parker.
Bro, they came out of the woodworks.
It was nuts.
Parker truthers, my goodness.
Yeah, we won't get into the whole details there, but I know there's someone listening going, oh, but what about his ACL injury? Cooper Kupp tore his ACL on
I
November
know
12th, came back and finished as a top 5 wide receiver.
they haven't.
Preston Williams did
Yeah,
it a week earlier. So,
yeah, they haven't listened to our Edwin episode. So again, this is, and I'm serious about this, guys. Like, I'm one full season into doing this podcast, which has fucking opened up my eyes into how to react and look at players with certain types of injuries. You should feel more. You should be more scared with a fucking hamstring injury than an ACL tear. I swear to fucking God. Those soft tissue, weird
soft tissue
fucking,
issues.
yep, soft tissue issues. My God, that should be a fucking hashtag. No, but it's fucking real though. Like those,
Yeah.
those are more dangerous and more scary for players missing time. You go back and
who
do
has
you.
a history with hamstring and quad pulls?
Who doesn't? Will Fuller,
Devontae
Dalvin
Parker.
Cook, yeah, Devontae Parker, exactly. Yeah. So no, I agree with you, dude. Like I'm totally on the same page. I thought the ACL tear was a major problem, and now part of me is saying this not from. This is gonna be a kind of a fun like little tie-in here. This isn't because like I'm just making this up. I was the guy who drafted Keenan Allen as my wide receiver 1 several years back. And in the first half of the first game, he got shot and fucking died just running a route. He wasn't even going for a play and tore his ACL. And I was like, never again. Like, fuck these injuries. Like, this sucks. And I'm over here thinking that that's, either a sign of injury prone. It's like, no, actually, it's not. Like, these ACL injuries, the medicine now is insane. These guys come back. Cooper Kupp came back faster after the ACL injury.
Sean McVay praises Cooper Kupp post ACL injury. And
it's incredible.
The interesting with Preston Williams, right? And you can look at this either way. I think it was back in 2015. I think it was his first year at Tennessee. He tore his ACL and he came back.
Yeah.
And even at Tennessee, he didn't really do much until he was at Colorado State, where he lit the world on fire. But yeah, like Edwin says, it's those soft tissue issues that are going to concern you. These ACL freakish injuries, people can come back from. I mean, look at Teddy Bridgewater, snapped his leg in half, right? And he comes back and plays well. And injuries aren't my concern with the Miami Dolphins offense. And I will say my concern is the second half with Tua. And I love Tua for everything. I drafted him in Superflex leagues everywhere that I could. I think he's going to be an amazing NFL quarterback. One thing that is a plus for these wide receivers is a Chan Gailey offense is always pretty pass heavy, regardless of if it's a rookie quarterback or someone that's new to the system. But you just don't see – and a lot of these wide receivers that we see succeed with rookie quarterbacks aren't the big downfield body receivers. Sure, you have Mike Evans, you have DeAndre Hopkins, but those two guys are freak talents, right? Like they're a cut above everyone else. A lot of the times it's the underneath guys. It's the Steve Smiths. It's the Jeremy Maclin even, who was kind of a deep ball, but he also got open under the field. It's the Golden Tates, the Jarvis Landrys, the Larry Fitzgeralds, the Pierre Garçons. Those are names that I'm all reading off, finished as top 36 with rookie quarterback. You can add in Christian Kirk, T.Y. Hilton, Danny Amendola, Allen Robinson kind of got downfield, but those are the guys that we're looking at that actually succeed.
Yeah.
And neither Devontae Parker nor Preston Williams are those guys.
Yep.
So when you're drafting these guys, you're hoping that Ryan Fitzpatrick stays as the starter. And let's say you draft Devontae Parker or Preston Williams. And whichever one you have lights it up for the first 8 weeks of the season, right? They're playing well. They go into the bye. And announcement comes out of the bye. Tua starting in week 10. Trade them. Sell the shit. Because you're going to have someone in your league that thinks Tua is going to be an absolute god as soon as he steps on the field. Yep. Sell the shit. In a dynasty league, don't do that. But in a redraft league, in this context, sell those receivers, okay?
Love it.
So that's kind of my stance on Miami is first half of the season, they're going to kill it. And they're going to do enough, again, staying vague with the name, but they're going to do enough to finish close to the top 24.
Awesome. Good shit, man. Listen, I think that's a great spot to wrap it up. I love all that breakdown. Love the content. Anybody who's listening, obviously, we are encouraging you go check us out. Obviously, at the Commish FFP on both Instagram and Twitter, but also go check out the new website www.thecomishbrand.com. Go check out that article that Josh posted. We're gonna come out with more. I say we, not me, Josh, who's fucking grinding the work, doing yeoman's work on fucking data analysis for the commish.
That's the
He,
dream.
yeah, loves it. And I love that he loves it because I don't, which is great. He is going to be producing more hard analytics based content, and we're going to be doing more of this type of content and analysis on the pod as well, with the help of Josh breaking that down for you. So if you do go and read it and then you want the podcast follow up, we got you covered on both aspects. So again, go check us out at www.thecommishbrand.com. Check out the article. We're going to have this posted likely soon, but I do think that it's a good place to wrap it up. 3 quarterbacks and the wide receivers that will fall into those categories for the 2020 season. So yeah, anything else, Josh, on your end?
Just while you're on the site, make sure you check out these fresh hats. I don't know if we're gonna be posting a video, but I'm wearing one of them now. So the
Yeah.
Commish brand, check out the gear, the swag if you're a college RA trying to sell something. But definitely check it out. They got some really good stuff up there. So
Awesome, bro. Appreciate it. All right, guys, take it easy.